A very big thank you, Nandi, for having FEM on this platform. I've been working closely with BBCBE, and as a company, FEM is very aligned with BBCBE. And thank you to President Khole for giving us this opportunity. So I am going to now attempt to share my screen and take you through my presentation. Okay, so what we want to talk about this evening is COIDA and COVID-19 in the workplace. COVID-19 took us all by surprise, and there's lots of fear, there's lots of confusion around the pandemic. And in terms of the construction industry, what we see is that from level 5, we had construction still working. There were certain companies, the essential services, to level 4 when the majority of companies started going back. And as was expected, it did come with a lot of claims and positive cases in the industry. So what we did, we looked at the COIDA platform, and we just tried to simplify in terms of what constitutes a valid claim and how to claim in terms of the COIDA Act. So just a few bullet points there. In terms of a valid claim, so the claim, it must comply with the out of and in the course of employment requirement. So the risk exposure must be in line with the COIDA Act. So very simply put, is it must be for the job that the person is employed to do, and nothing out of that job in term to be considered for a valid claim. So the source, the index, the agent must be clearly identified and known. And we do know that this is not always possible, but we have our claims department at FEM who will assist in this manner. Contact tracing is a big thing, and that's why one of the things that in terms of the regulations, you have to fill in quite a lot of documentation. You've got to answer questions, putting on all your personal details. And the construction sector is not alone in this. I mean, if you go out to a restaurant, for example, or you're taking kids to school, they have all this documentation to fill out as well. There must have been close contact with a COVID-19 positive case. So this is not always possible as well. A lot of times you wouldn't know if a person is positive. They sometimes don't have the symptoms immediately. But this again is where the actual contact tracing comes in. And if we can trace back, it's easier to understand where the origination of the disease was. The occupation must have been an inherent requirement of the job. Again, speaking to the type of work that the person is performing. And any COVID-19 claim, regardless of occupation, must be investigated, documented, and reported to the DOEL. So also very important, one of the things we picked up at FEM is we looked at the number of claims coming in, and they seem surprisingly low, whereas when we talked to construction companies, we would find that they had quite a few other cases that weren't reported. So once again, it's very, very vital that all cases are reported. Okay, in addition to all of that, there must be a nexus between COVID-19 claim and the workplace. So there must be basically a relationship between the COVID-19 claim and the actual workplace. So traveling must be business related, excluding commuting to and from work. So if we look in terms of the type of travel that people undertake, it must essentially be an instruction from the company if it's not the home to work commute. The employer must have been performing any work in pursuance of the employer's business. So once again, speaking to the type of work, I mean, this is spelled out pretty clearly in the COIDA Act. that an IOD will only be covered if the person injured, or in this case, contracting the disease, is performing what they employed to perform. And an employee shall be entitled to compensation provided for in the COID Act if it is proved to be to the satisfaction of the Director General that the disease has arisen out of and in the course of his or her employment. So once again, speaking to and reinforcing the same point, and also that it has to be a work-related disease. So if we look at the last line there, the note, there are no benefits for unconfirmed cases and contacts who are on self-quarantine. So simply put, lots of people come up with symptoms. If that case is not tested and it's not confirmed to be a positive COVID-19 cases, there will be no quota benefits payable on that particular case. If you do come across any employees with symptoms and you have asked them to self-quarantine, it would be best that they do a COVID test. And if it's confirmed to be positive, you follow the normal claims procedure. In terms of the actual procedure, we look at the initial testing. So one of the common questions is, do we pay for COVID-19 testing? And simply put, is the initial testing may be paid for by the employer, and only if that case is positive and the claim is accepted will FEM reimburse the costs to the employer or whoever's paid that test. The follow-up testing on post-quarantine, while this is not a mandatory test, it can be used if employers want to bring employees back into the workplace, and it will be covered as well, again, if that claim has been accepted by FEM. And then for cases with no complications, the TTD, or what we call temporary total disablement, is limited to the period from the date of diagnosis up to a maximum of 30 days post-infection. Okay, so this, remember again that TTD is paid at 75% of the total wages up to certain maximums. And then if the individual is hospitalized, medical treatment will be covered until the employee is discharged. For self-quarantine and unconfirmed cases, the employer is responsible for remuneration. So we won't pay any remuneration or TTD from FEM side. And impairment is determined 3 months post-COVID-19 recovery. So if there's any complications and this leads to any form of impairment, we'll look at that window period, the 3 months post recovery. And death benefits are applied in line with Schedule 4 of the COID Act. So Schedule 4 of the COID Act basically talks around the pensions that are payable. There are new minimums and maximums that are now applicable in terms of the COID Act and Section 4. Okay, and when it comes to documentation, there is quite a few more forms that we will require in order for us to accept a claim. And all these forms can be found on our website. So if you go to www.fem.co.za /forms, you'll be able to download all the forms there. And all the claim-related documents must be submitted to the email address registry@fema.co.za. Very important, you got to remember to report all COVID-19 cases to the DOEL, whether it's work-related or not. And you can also email, if you're not sure of anything, you can email FEM on inquiries@fema.co.za, or our national line is 359-4300. We have a 24-hour hotline set up as well. So after hours, you can call 359-4333, and there's a few people on that line that will be willing to assist you. Okay, and from my side, that's it. Nandi, thank you, and back to you.